And then
Sometimes people say mean things to truckers in traffic. It happens. So, and they realize that they just have to keep on trucking. They can't stop and beat them to death because they don't like the thing that the guy said to them from the windshield of his Hyundai or whatever.
two homeless guys get into a fight. The black homeless guy stabs the white homeless guy. Black homeless guy is charged with a crime. Probably, I haven't seen a breakdown of the jury, but based on the population in Portland, almost certainly a substantially majority white jury says, hey, you know what? That's justified because they bought the argument that the white homeless person had called the black guy the N-word. Now, we had a caller, Gene, who was like, hey, could the judge toss this? The answer is no. Almost never can a judge toss a not guilty verdict. And there are only very limited exceptions. For instance, if a defendant bought off a juror and we became aware, then the case would not get the not guilty verdict would just lead to a new trial. You wouldn't be able to say, actually, this guy's guilty. Now, again, this gets into the weeds. There are cases where judges you'll have a motion for a judgment notwithstanding the verdict, where the judge can look at it and say the evidence does not support a conviction, but it can only be beneficial to the defendant, not something where the judge suddenly waves his magic wand and says, I'm deeming you guilty because you have a right to a jury trial. Now, I asked Buck off air, I was reading about this recently. Why do we have 12 jurors? I don't know how many of you have ever sat around and thought, why is a jury standard, especially in criminal cases, 12 jurors? The derivation legally appears to go all the way back to a British king in the 8th century who said, hey, because of the 12 apostles, 12 is the right number. So we are going to have 12, because it used to be, and this was like really kind of a tough time, they would just let the trial be, hey, we're going to throw you in the water, and if you don't sink, then God is saying you're innocent. If you sink, then God is saying that you're guilty. Instead of a jury of your peers, they would have so-called trial by, sometimes you had to carry around like a hot scalding iron in your hand. And this is crazy stuff that used to go on. But around the 8th century, a king in England, and then this was codified into the colonies through common law, which, for those of you out there who don't know, most of American common law is rooted in British jurisprudence and has grown into its own legacy of the law here in America. A bunch of people with comments out there. Ryan in Columbus, Ohio, is asking, what is a logical response to the precedent set in this case? Ryan, fire away.
Hey, I'm just curious. So where do we draw the line? And who draws the line on speech that qualifies as violence? Am I justified in violence if someone calls me a racist or a Nazi up into and including killing someone?
Yeah, this is the question, right? And this is why both Buck and I find it so important to distinguish between words and violence. And remember here, this is significant. It's the jury that bought the argument. So you can say, hey,
that's not surprising at all. Given a Portland jury, this is this is a left-wing belief. You have to believe this.
This is why the defense attorney went with this version of his defense for his client, because he believed that this jury would be susceptible. So you can be upset at the result. I think it's a ridiculous result. But understand that 12 jurors in Portland found this to be compelling, which is why, honestly, this ties in with my argument, Buck, about why we have such kangaroo court systems in Washington, D.C. You have the same kind of super left-wing jurors in Washington, D.C., which Democrats have used to rig the political process by using all of their prosecution in federal courts in Washington, D.C. You do not get a jury of your peers. This is not a normal group of people. This is far left-wing ideologues who will throw you in prison. We just saw it with all the Jan 6 cases.
I think there was, what was it, Clay? Japlinski v. New Hampshire, which was the fighting words Supreme Court fighting words doctrine, where there are words that can immediately provoke violence. This ended up being not overturned specifically, but jurisprudence changed after this one. This is one of the earlier 1942 case.
It
Unprotected speech. I disagree. I disagree with that. I think people can say the meanest words they want to say. You're not allowed to knock their teeth out in response. Sorry.
And most of us were raised in the, I don't know, I have used it with my kids. I don't know how many kids they use it with today, but I bet, Buck, you were raised with sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I mean, every kid at some point in time comes to mom or dad. Somebody has said something super mean, super unkind. The reality is words can hurt, words can harm. But this is, I think, the essence of one of the issues that we're getting wrong with the whole concept of coddling the American mind is the idea that if someone says something that you find to be hurtful, that the way to handle that is by shutting down their right to speech. And Ryan in Columbus is asking that question, which I think is a good one, which is how do you draw that line? Ultimately, the jury said, basically, it's a get-out-of-jail-free card. If a racial slur is used, no black man can restrain himself. It's actually insulting, I think, to black men because it presumes that they don't have the willpower to deal with people saying mean things to them and must act irrationally and violently as a result. That's the entire premise of the defense here.
Bill in New Jersey, GG, a WOR listener, play it.
I don't know what it was like when you guys were growing up, and you're quite a bit younger than I am, but when I was a kid, the line was, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. We need a little more of that around the world these days.
I didn't even see that talk back. He's preaching to the choir. That's exactly what I just said. Trucker Mike in Arizona, we love when our truckers reach out, says, and he has a premise that is not dissimilar to the caller we just had, FF.
Let me get this straight. So if someone calls me, I'm a white man. I don't care what color I am, but just let you know I'm a white man. So if someone calls me white trash, cracker, a honky, trailer trash, tweaker, whatever, does that give me justification to stab them and injure them? It's the same damn thing. It's just asinine and stupid. I agree with you guys 100%.
Yeah. Totally.
Truckers have pretty good logic a lot of times, Buck. Pretty good common sense.
Sometimes people say mean things to truckers in traffic. It happens. So, and they realize that they just have to keep on trucking. They can't stop and beat them to death because they don't like the thing that the guy said to them from the windshield of his Hyundai or whatever.
And sometimes truckers get behind Buck Sexton driving 24 miles an hour in a 45, and they may even say mean things to Buck. But that doesn't mean, as they sit there having to constantly hit their brake because Miss Daisy is driving in front of them, it doesn't mean.
I'm glad that some of us care about safety on these roads, you know? All right, look, if you believe in the life of a child, an unborn child, then you share my anguish thinking about what's happening to children's lives lost to abortion day in and day out. Nearly 1 in 4 pregnancies ends this way. But there's a nonprofit on the front line saving as many lives as possible, preborn. Their network of clinics have saved 350,000 babies year to date. The preborn clinics across the country provide unconditional support and love for pregnant moms who are making that difficult decision. But they start them off with care, love, support, and a free ultrasound. Because once mom meets her tiny baby in the womb through that ultrasound, the game is changed and life becomes so much more likely. And they have numbers to back this up. This is how they're saving so many lives. $28 is the cost of an ultrasound. Your tax-deductible donation can be the difference between life and death for a tiny baby. Have you donated